Tagged on me, now I have something to lift up to. It's interesting, we've gathered this morning and stuff. My topic is going to be on committed. How committed are we? And Annette knocked on my door the other day. Well, let me back up a little bit. She had asked me at the beginning of the year, I think it was, that she needed to fill certain spots for a speaker. And so she gave me a couple of different dates, and I said, emailed her back. I said, I'm available any of the days. So anyway, she came, I think it was last Tuesday, knocking on my door, said, oh, I just stopping by to make sure that you're going to be available to speak to her. I said, well, those of you that know me, my word is my bond. And there was a time when that's all that mattered, when we committed ourselves using our words on handshake and it was set and done and sealed. Okay? Not so much these days, is it? With all that we have going on. So my little topic today would be, how committed are we? Okay? A new year and hopefully new beginnings. Yes? Okay. 2023, it's a number 7 year. It's going to be a very powerful year for us. Whether we're ready or not, it's going to come at us. Hopefully with more abundance, more joy, a happier and livelier life. Okay? And so hopefully we have given some thought to what we would like the new year to bring for us. But in doing so, we also have to set the thoughts and set the intentions, and that takes some commitment. Okay? So now that we're into, perhaps some of us, make some New Year's resolutions. Some people have gone kind of away for that. I personally have never made a New Year's resolution. My way of dealing with the world and living is to put my trust and faith in Spirit, which is my driving force. And so I never really set, because when we make commitments or choose, sometimes we're actually limiting ourselves. And yet when we allow ourselves to be guided by Spirit, then the doors open and we are graced with God's grace. So if you've made a New Year's resolution, and now we're getting into the third week of 2023, how committed have we been to staying true to that resolutions or goals, or if anything have we set? Or has it found its way to back burners because those of us that are still in the rat race of making a living, working X number of hours a week, that's, gets pushed further and further back. So, oh, I made this, but I don't have the time, I have to do this, and this came up, and that, and the other. In some cases, just excuses because we really weren't committed to achieving whatever it is we set out forth. And perhaps that's a way of the universe saying, okay, you really don't need to be doing that, you should be doing this. But we only get those insights if we take the time to sit and have the communication with the world beyond. And the world beyond is really not beyond. The world beyond is really here. Just as Spirit is not out there, and everything that we seek is not out there. Everything we seek, it's already within. So it's just a reflection. We think it's out there, but it's really all within. So if your commitment has found its way to the back burners, perhaps you should revisit them and make new ones. Because life always offers us different opportunities. When we're going down this way, then we also have the option, and we forgo going the opposite way. So when we make one choice, we forgo a lot of other things. And again, sometimes in making those choices, we actually are limiting ourselves. So how committed are we really to make the necessary effort to follow through on our resolutions, our goals, or anything else that we would like to accomplish? When there are so many distractions, social media, friends, we have to do this, that, and the other. We have families and children, soccer and dance and everything else, okay? How many, when we have so many distractions, that keeps us from committing to what we would like to do? And we have X amount of hours to do it in. Very little, okay? And for some of us, this has become a yearly cycle of making resolutions, knowing in the back of our head that we're really not going to follow through, because life is going to throw at us whatever. So, the New Year's resolution will find its way to the back burners somehow, if we allow it to. Again, how committed are we to what we set our intentions to? There's a quote in the Bible that said, "The spirit is willing, but the body is weak." And I say not the body, it's just the mind that is weak. Because if we set our intentions knowing that the body is only the physical, but what really drives the body is the mind. Okay? So, although that verse is very profound, and it was so ancient, adopted into modern times as we've evolved as a human race, as a species, we realize that it's the thoughts. What we set our intentions, our focus, it's what really drives us to do the things that we need to do. The physical body helps us get us there because that's the vehicle that we've chosen to emanate the spirit. Okay? Another saying is, and many of us know that our thoughts create. We create via our thoughts. So again, is it the body or is it the mind? And really, it's not even the mind, it's the consciousness. It's being aware of the fact that we are light beings, but with being a light beings, we are also, just as the Creator is the consciousness, and all known, as we say in the Spiritualist churches, infinite intelligence. So we're really talking about consciousness. Okay. So remember that our thoughts create whatever it is we choose to manifest. One word that people use mostly unconscious is, and those of you that know me, when I hear that word, I kind of step back. Try. And it becomes so often, so ingrained in us, oh, I try, without even giving it a second thought. Whatever happened to that St. Michael Jordan with just do it? There was no trying, and there is no trying. We either put the effort and the attention and the focus into the things that we want to achieve, or we just don't do it. And try also implies the fact that perhaps in the first place you really didn't want to do it, and yet you're not being honest with yourself and you say, I tried. But how much effort are you really putting when you try? Very little. Because if you do it, no matter to what degree, to the best level you can, either you do it or you don't. So we put it off. When we say we try, we'll just put it off. I'll try, but again, no effort. And everything in this 3D world requires our attention, our focus, and our commitment. So again, there is no trying. We either do the things that we've set out to do to the best level that we can do it, but we've done it. We didn't try, we did it. Good, bad, or indifference, we did it. We accomplished whatever it was, to whatever degree of attention and focus we put into accomplishing those things that we choose to do. When we look at any commitment, it's a way of making really a big decision, because we only have X amount of hours dedicated to doing the things that we need to do within the course of the 24-hour period. So it does take some serious thinking. Am I going to commit myself to doing this, knowing that I have all of this other stuff on my plate? And so I need to take time from wherever to be able to accomplish this. So it is a big deal to commit to anything. But if you're serious about committing, you will find the time and the way to commit to that which you desire to accomplish. Whatever it is, whatever goal, whatever resolution, whatever it is that you like to accomplish. When you commit, you make a decision towards a particular long-term goal or short-term goal or an ideal, saying, I will not consider other options, thoughts, or obstacles. In other words, you're not going to allow other things interfere with what you've committed to, because that is perhaps sometimes it's a passion, something that we really want to do, and you are therefore willing to forego doing this, giving time to this, to do this other thing that's really where you're going to invest your time and your focus in. And therefore, when you say will, your throat center, by the way, that is your will center. Just as when God supposedly created the universe, he said, let there be light, and it was done, the will. And if you really focus on yourself, evolving this light being that we are, you will always use the word, I will do this, not I'll try. So we will eliminate as much of the things that are going to get or become an obstacle to keep us from achieving those things that we want to achieve. And of course, there are also advantages to not committing as well. We have to look at the other side of the coin. You know, if you're not committed, if you're not committed, you get to keep all your options open just in case something better comes along. Okay? By the same token, when you keep all your options open until something better comes up to the last minute, you've already maybe had a prior commitment, but keeping your options open, oh, I'll forgo this and I'll do this instead. And then we get into that habit of jumping things to things to things and not really committing to any of them. So what are we really going to accomplish when we divide whatever energy and whatever time we have, that it becomes so minuscule that we're really not focused in anything? And again, in this 3D world, focus, attention, and intentions are very important to accomplish anything that we desire to make our lives better, easier, more fulfilling, more loving. Okay? Realize also that, as I said before, when we choose one thing, we forgo many others. So then we have to give the time and the consideration to when we're going to commit, is this really worth my time? Again, in this 3D world, everything requires an exchange, whether we realize it or not. I'll give you this so that you can give me that in return. And unfortunately that is sad, because in the culture where we come, when we sit down to do spiritual things, we don't have to have, pay me first and then I will give you whatever. We do things freely in service to our fellow man, and we'll get into that topic a little bit later. So again, there always has to be an exchange. We work, those of us that work, fortunately I'm retired, thank you. We give our time, whether it's 30, 40 hours, in return for a paycheck. So there's always an exchange. So when you're doing that, you need to realize what commitment am I going to make. Some of us can't afford to put 40 hours a week because we have children, we have families, so therefore we perhaps take a part-time job. So there's always an exchange. Okay, so when we commit, we're locked in, and we may refuse other alternatives, like I said before. We'll forgo something because this is what we want to achieve. We become focused, and therefore we're more likely to succeed in making the things that we want a reality. Then we become confident, knowing that this is what I want, and forget all of the other distractions. Okay? So we become so focused on how to obtain that we committed our time and our efforts and our energy to. We always have the guidance to know that which we committed to, whether it's right or wrong. And then at that point, if you realize that it's not really what you thought it was going to be, then we have the option to change and redirect the course. And by doing so, by being committed, we also get inspired and inspired other people to follow us because we're committed. And when we're committed and we hold true to our own word, that gives us integrity. By not committing, let's look at the other side of the coin. When we don't commit, we are flexible, we have lots of options, but eventually we can only choose one thing anyway. Okay? And keeping all our options open, there's a high chance that we're not going to get anywhere with it. If we're doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of the other, we're dividing our energy and our focus. Okay? And in doing that, then you may come across the obstacle that at the first sign of the trouble that things are not going smoothly, you're going to give up. Oh, that's not worth it. I'll go do this other thing instead. Okay? Dividing our energy once again, because now we did a little bit here, and now we're going to do a little bit over there. And it gets harder to have people put trust and faith in us, because if we don't have that trust and faith in our commitment within ourselves, how reliable and how trustworthy are we going to be? If we can't hold ourselves true to our own word, how can we expect someone else to be trustworthy of us? Okay? Then it also becomes easy to change our mind when we keep all our options open. We'll wait till the last minute, and like I said, we probably had a prior commitment, oh, I'll keep all my options open. And then we so blatantly dismiss the commitment we probably had because now we're going to do something better that perhaps offered a better choice. And so we blow up the people off, not giving any consideration to the time they took to offer whatever it is they were. And once again, we may be living ourselves. We went here thinking it's going to be better, where actually the price was on this side. Like I said, there was a time when our word was as good as it gold. It was our bond. And all it took was pretty much a handshake to be committed. Those days are long gone. With social media and instant gratification, you get on your phone, you don't even have to leave your house or even dress. You can do it from your bed, in your pajamas. Amazon, in 2 hours is at your door. And unfortunately, that's what this world has come down to. We expect everything now. You don't have to put any effort into it, other than dialing the phone. And you don't even have to speak. But if you so choose to, you can use that little tool to run your entire life. And also, to help you guide yourself, which is the positive side of it, to holding true to your commitment. And I know perhaps I'm lecturing to the choir, because obviously you're all here. You're committed to coming to church today to hear whatever words of wisdom are being spoken. So if you're so tied to that little device that becomes an appendix to you, use it to the advantage where you can set on your calendar on your phone, this time I'm going to do this, and that time I'm going to do that, and it'll send you a little bell to remind you that you have this appointment, whatever that appointment is. And therefore, use that tool to your advantage, to hold you true to the commitments that you've made. Life does get in the way. Life does get in the way. I'm not saying that this is a perfect world, not by any means, but yet the world is perfect. The world continues to revolve in spite of us and in spite of what's going on in our lives. It doesn't stop because we just had a trauma here, or we had the drama. Life continues, and the saying goes, and that too shall pass. So we all commit to doing the things for ourselves without any problems. Like I said, those of us that are still working, we commit to doing a job 35 to 40 hours plus. And so, in that commitment of working 40 hours a week, and by the way, within a week, there's 168 hours. And so if you take, basically if you work 40 hours a week, you've given up 60 hours, so that gives you 128 hours left to do whatever. Out of those 128 hours that are left, we need at least 7 hours a day for sleep. There goes another 49 hours. So now we're down to 79 hours for the rest of the week. Okay, so basically what I'm talking about is that within a 24-hour period, we divide it into three. We have 8 hours for work, we have 8 hours for rest, and then we have 8 hours to do everything else. And that everything else could be huge, depending on how much we put on our plate. So it is important to use those 8 hours that we have left very diligently. Okay, now let's start talking about our spiritual growth, evolving our spirit, because that's what we are. That's what we've always have been. Okay? What about the personal things in our life that we need to invest for the long run? Developing our spiritual life, taking more time for family. There are husbands out there that will work 16, 20 hours a day to fulfill the needs of the family, but are they really fulfilling the needs of the family, not being present? Materially, yes, he is. But is he giving that love and that care and that attention to that family? He's giving them all the material things he needs. And when he leaves this physical plane, all those material things will stay right here in the physical. There's a saying, I'm going to veer off a little bit. When God created the earth, okay, then he decided to create man. He took from earth, because we say this is a house of clay, he took from the earth to make man. And Mother Earth complained. She said, why are you taken from me? And God said, do not worry. What is yours will always return to you, and what is mine will return to me. Everything that is Mother Earth goes back to Mother Earth. When we're done with this house of clay, it goes back to the dirt, back to Mother Earth. We don't get to take this house of clay to the spirit world. True, isn't it? Everything that belongs to Mother Earth will always go back to Mother Earth in whatever form. So, how committed are we to our spiritual self, developing our spiritual self? Knowing that the only thing that we're going to take back with us is the experiences that we have in this 3D world. How we interact with each other, lovingly or not so lovingly. And again, those are lessons there. For many years, I have facilitated a small meditation group. And the only thing I required is I said, my word is my bond. And when I help somebody, the only thing I expect back is not payment. It's the commitment of that person to put in as much effort as I'm putting into whatever it is that we're doing. That's all it requires. This past Friday, we had our first meditation. And in opening, Spirit prior to that had gave me that we need to start, we need to stop putting on a plate so much, putting so much focus on acquiring, like I said, all the material things, and to start putting focus on time for ourselves to develop a spiritual growth, to develop the gift, or whatever it is, spiritually, because anything else, like I said, materially, will stay with Mother Earth when you leave this physical plane. So Spirit kind of reminded us that we need to step back a little bit, cut back from doing all of these other things that may not be as important in the long run, and put more focus on yourself, to have more peace of mind, to taking time to make that commitment, to sit with those Spirit helpers to walk with you, to help your life easier, but you have to ask. Because Spirit will never, ever violate your free will. They'll say, you may want to look at this, or you should do, but Spirit will never tell you you have to do. So spiritually, how committed are we to developing our spiritual self? That part of us, which is ingrained in us, because we are always spirit, we have always been spirit, and we will always continue to be spirit. We will always continue to be that divine essence of God, that divine spark. And that's where our focus should be. Okay? Life in this 3D world requires us to be of service. Because life is about being service to one another, whether we realize it or not. Those jobs that I was talking about that you put in 30, 40, 50, 60 hours a week, that's being of service. And not so much because you're going to get a paycheck, because whatever work, whatever job you're doing, it's being of service to someone. Okay? So everything in this 3D world, whether it's government or personal jobs, all faces of the medical field, schools, colleges, anything that you can think of in this 3D world requires something to be of service. And that does not exclude this beautiful planet Earth. The trees, nature. The trees recycle the air so that we can breathe properly. They also give us shade. They give us the fruits and the nourishment that we need for this body. The sun. Everything in the entire universe, it's in service in one way or another. And we too are here more so to be in service to each of us, to our fellow man, to help inspire, to grow, to be a guiding light. That is our true purpose, to be of service to our fellow man. So commitment. Commitment is not about setting such rigid rules to make us inflexible. It is about making choices and holding true to the choices that we think are going to better ourselves and our lives. And again, of being of service to our fellow man. But in making those choices, we need to ask open-ended questions so that we know that we're setting a framework, and then we can fill in the blanks and the details to know that if I make this choice, it will allow me room and the flexibility for the pleasant surprises that the journey will bring. The quality of your response depends on the willingness to tap into your own authentic self. So go ahead,